We have today a guest speaker. I don't see Ira here. Carrie Holtzman. Carrie, were you able to get online?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good deal. We're pleased to have Carrie as our guest speaker today. Carrie runs a business named Performance. He is known for his freewheeling, high-energy, fun, and participatory presentation style, as well as computer expertise. The presentation is based on your questions. Please ask questions at any time. No questions, a very short meeting. Okay? Need you to participate. A favorite topic is free software as an alternative to fee-based software. We'd like to welcome Carrie Holtzman. Carrie is here.
All right, hi, my name is Carrie Holtzman. Out of curiosity, how many of you have seen me before? So a little less than half the room. So for the benefit of everybody else, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I have been in the IT career field professionally since 1991. And I've been self-employed since about 1996, 97. And I've worked for places like Intel and APS and other local large companies here in the Valley. I've written a book that initially got me talking to the computer clubs back in 2003, 2004, because McGraw-Hill, the publisher of my book, did nothing to promote it. So I went around to the computer clubs trying to promote the book, and it's kind of a tour that's never ended. I still travel to the computer clubs and really enjoy the philosophy of the computer clubs, which is users helping users. I also have a YouTube page, which is what's up on the screen right now, where I have a number of videos, and ideally this presentation, if it gets recorded all the way with audio, sometimes the battery runs out, other things happen, but if it all works well, then this presentation will be available on YouTube within the next couple days. And the YouTube videos have really taken off. I think I'm around 4.5 million views up there. And I teach people how to build computers, how to diagnose computers. And I do it in a way that I wish somebody would have taught me. I guess that's the best way to explain it. Try and take things we already know and apply it to computers. Now, as John mentioned, my presentation style is a little different than what you may be accustomed to, because no company is paying me to be here today and I have nothing to sell you. It's a good thing you're sitting down, right? I have nothing to sell you. The whole point of me being here today is to share information with you. Now, there's a lot of information up here, and some of it, probably most of it, you don't care about. But I don't know what that is unless you tell me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a couple of topical news items, and then we'll go and see if anybody has any questions. Whether or not they're related to the news items is irrelevant. If there's anything technology-wise on your mind, a problem that you're having or something you've always wondered, I encourage you to raise your hand and ask and participate today. I will tell you that those who do participate will enjoy this more. Not that you won't enjoy it if you don't, but I think the people who participate take more from it. Don't be afraid of asking a question that's too stupid. There's no such thing. Some people are embarrassed by their question about technology. They think they should know something. None of us was born knowing any of this. I know what I know because it was taught to me, whether I was reading a book or whatever. It's natural to not know it. So I don't want you to to be like I used to be and look around the room to see if anybody else is raising their hand. Because chances are whatever question you have, somebody else also has it and they're just not brave enough to ask it. What cracks me up sometimes is what'll happen is I'll have a room that's dead silent. And it's like, nobody's got any questions. All right, well, I'll just rattle on about stuff. Whether or not it's of interest to you, I don't know. You left me no choice. But then afterwards, when I'm done, I'll have a line of 20 people deep lined up to ask me questions. So, which is fine. I mean, you're welcome to do that. But, you know, it doesn't really get the benefit of everybody else. Now, one of the topical things I'm sure you've already heard about, XP support is ending. So I'll try and make this as brief as I can. What that means is there'll be no more updates to Windows XP after April 8th, 2014. Those are updates from Microsoft. There's a little confusion because Microsoft said they're going to extend the Microsoft Security Essentials free antivirus to support XP through 2015. So people are under the false conclusion that XP's support has been extended to 2015. It has not. Only the antivirus definitions are being supported through 2015. What happens on April 8th won't be any different if you're using XP. And out of curiosity, how many people here are using XP? Just a few, just half dozen. That's wonderful, that's good. What ends up happening is the ways hackers get into your computer, there's a lot of different ways. They send you email attachments and links they want you to click on. There are security breaches in Java and Adobe Reader, Adobe Flash. If it's got the name Adobe in front of it, there's security breaches there. So there's always updates to Java. There's always updates to Adobe Reader. There's always updates to Adobe Flash. There's always updates to Microsoft Windows. There's antivirus updates. There's anti-malware updates. And then there's software updates, like Google Chrome is updating on that other tab over there. And it's all to patch holes in the hull.
Bad programming.
Well, the gentleman says bad programming. But if you've ever written anything for the general public, like if you were writing it for scientists, that'd be different. But when you're writing something for the general public, you know, you've got to put a warning on the bottom of a Coke bottle that says open at other end. You've got to put a warning on a hairdryer that says do not use while bathing. And so Microsoft, when you develop an operating system for the general public, you have to put in all this stuff. And when you put in more lines of code, it's more likely that there's some flaw in there that somebody's going to find. A piece of software is never really ever written. If you've ever written a piece of software, it's not unlike writing a book. And if you've ever thought about a story that you've written, you could go back and change that story. You could keep finding things about it. It could never be finished. At some point, you just have to let it go. Or a painting. At some point, you have to stop painting and say the painting is done. So here's what happens. So when, say Microsoft made a screwdriver, and somebody used that screwdriver as a chisel and hurt themselves, Microsoft would have to tell their engineers to redesign the screwdriver so that it would not function as a chisel, but would still work as a screwdriver. So now we have a simple little stick device that's getting a little bigger, a little chunkier, weighs a little more, and then somebody goes and stabs somebody in the ear with it. So they got to go back to the drawing board, they got to redesign it so it can't be used for that purpose. So they're finding ways to use that screwdriver that screwdriver was never intended or designed or even thought was going to be used in that fashion. So what these patches do is they patch these holes or these exploits that hackers have discovered, and in doing so often introduce other patches or other exploits or other problems. So on April 8th, what I'm getting to is that Windows XP isn't going to stop working. It's going to work the same as it's always worked. But on every day following that, every exploit that's discovered will remain unpatched and just ignored by Microsoft. So every day after April 8th that you continue to use XP on the internet, there's a greater chance of your identity being stolen or your data being breached. When Microsoft releases the patches, the hackers who don't even know what the problem was that Microsoft was fixing can take the patch apart to see what the patch fixes, and now they know how to take advantage of it. They reverse engineer it. It is said that there are hackers who know some exploits in XP right now who are just keeping their mouths shut. I don't know if this is true or not, because they don't want Microsoft to patch it. They want to wait till April 8th, and they want to take advantage of it. So if you value your identity, if you value the security of the data on your machine, the best thing you can do is replace Windows XP with something else. Windows Vista is still supported. Windows 7 support is good through 2020. And of course, there's Windows 8. I do not recommend upgrading a computer that's got Windows XP to Windows 8. I recommend buy a new computer. A computer running Windows XP was not designed or engineered to accommodate Windows 7 or Windows 8. It's like if you have a little car, a little 4-cylinder car, and you have a little canoe. and then later on you upgrade to a yacht. That little car that you're using to tow that big yacht wasn't designed to do that. It will do it. It will do it very poorly. And that's what ends up happening with putting Windows 7, for example, on a Windows XP computer. Windows 7's much more lines of code, much more resource intensive, and it'll run so much better with more modern hardware that it's designed for, where XP wasn't designed for, things like SATA-based hard drives and DDR3 memory and all these things that advances in technology that have come out. You have to understand, Microsoft used to come out with an operating system every 2 to 3 years. We go all the way back to DOS 3, DOS 4, 5, 6, Windows 3.1, Windows 95, 98, Millennium, XP, all 2 to 3 years. And then XP came out in 2001, and it sort of stayed. Now, I have to tell you, this really upset Microsoft shareholders. Hence, Vista was kind of pushed out the door before it was ready. Lost my train of thought. I don't want to go on and on about this. Basically, the gist of it is not advisable to continue using Windows XP after April 8th. What will eventually happen if you insist on continuing to use it, and if your identity is not stolen to your knowledge, you will eventually buy a printer or a scanner or TurboTax, some piece of software, sometime next year probably, that will not install on your computer. It'll simply say, we do not support XP. And there'll be no support for XP. And it'd be no different than if you tried to use Windows 98 today and you tried to get your printer that you just bought onto Windows 98. Good luck with that. They just stop supporting it. So that's what stop supporting means. It doesn't mean it just stops working. It's going to work. It just becomes less useful over time. Now, another thing that's happened recently to one of my customers was they received a phone call claiming to be from Microsoft that their computer had a virus, and walked them through giving them remote access and said that they had to pay $380 or something to remove the virus. Well, they thought at that point it sounded suspicious. But it should have sounded suspicious the minute the person with the foreign accent said their name was Jason, that they wanted to connect to you remotely with some piece of software that Microsoft doesn't make. Log Me In, for example. And then when they asked for money, and here's the thing, unless you call Microsoft and you say, I need some help, and maybe they have a thing that says your call is very important to us, which is why you're on hold indefinitely. If you'd like to leave a number, we'll call you back. Then you should expect a call from Microsoft. But if you didn't do that, and I'm going to try and find a really polite way to say this. Microsoft doesn't give two rats' bottoms about you, your computer, or your viruses. They only answer to their shareholders. Anybody here a shareholder for Microsoft? Then you shouldn't be getting a call from them, unless you asked for one. You will get emails that say that you have a court appearance. No, you don't. You have to be subpoenaed to be expected in court. Delete those emails. You may get an email that FedEx or DHL has been trying to deliver a package. No. If they can't find your address, they most certainly do not know your email address. These are all scams. And my goal here today isn't to make you paranoid, but I do want you to be skeptical. There's so many different ways people get tricked into giving up their information that even when you have your computer all patched and everything's up to date and you've got the latest and best security software installed, when you're on your phone, for example, giving somebody your credit card number in a public place, even though you've done everything right, you're secure, you're safe, you're patched, you're updated, and now you're on the phone with somebody going, my credit card number is 52, can you hear me? 5216. And you just told it to everybody around you, completely undoing all that security you spent all that time and effort. It'd be no different than having a big alarm system, mean dog, bars on your windows, and the guy says, I'm from CenturyLink, and you say, oh, come on in, let me put the dog outside and shut the alarm off. And the guy's a criminal, and you just invited him in your door. So as much as the technology helps us, there's a thing called social engineering, and we've got to be wise to it. Yes, sir?
Talk about security. Microsoft has this Windows or Defender on Windows 8, 8.1, things like this. How good is that compared to all the programs you buy or get free?
All right, let's talk about that for a minute. Microsoft offers a free antivirus product called Microsoft Security Essentials. The name they changed to Windows Defender. It was called Windows Defender in Vista, then they changed it to Security Essentials in 7, then they changed it back to Defender in Windows 8. Just to keep you confused, I guess. How good is it? Well, if you read the magazine reviews about it, they say it's the worst one ever. But there is no antivirus at any price that can protect you 100% against all the threats that are out there. So what I hear when people ask me that is, which one of these cars do you sell will keep me from getting into a car accident? I hear the Volvo is really safe. You are still responsible behind the wheel of that automobile. And there is no excuse that makes you exempt from learning how to drive simply because you're in a safer car. There is no security software that you can put on your computer that you can now do whatever the heck you want to without any possibility of consequences. There's just none that make you exempt from that. So, you should always surf the internet and make decisions as though you have no antivirus. Don't rely on your antivirus to protect you. With that said, no matter how much you pay for Norton, no matter how much you paid for McAfee, Kaspersky, or whether you use AVG or Avast or some of the other free alternatives, I don't recommend them. As for the paid ones remind me of America in the 1930s during Prohibition, when the gangsters would come up to you and they'd go, you got a pretty nice place here. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it. And they exploit money out of you. And that's what Norton and McAfee are basically doing, Kaspersky. So you say, okay, but you said Microsoft Security Essentials, the magazines say that that's not very good. Well, it isn't very good. By itself, and Microsoft will say it's not really designed to be your sole security. You need something else. So I combine it with two other things. So Microsoft Security Essentials, which is free for life. Now you might say AVG and Avast are free, but yeah, they give you pop-ups and they encourage you to buy it, and every year you have to download a new version, and they always hide the free version and it's hard to find it. Then they try and install a bunch of toolbars. Security Essentials doesn't do any of that. It just sits quietly, it updates itself, it's good for the life of the computer, you're done. That's what I like. There's another program called Malwarebytes, which I will take you to right here, which is at malware, which is short for malicious software, malware, which falls under a category of kind of like a virus, but it's not classified as a virus. It's classified as malicious software. That's really what we're worried about today anyway. Not so much with the virus. There's still viruses going around, but mostly it's malicious software. So Malwarebytes, why I like them, apart from the fact the program is clean, it's easy to use, they offered, and I think they still will offer for another week or so, a lifetime license. They always have, but it's going away. So for $25, $30, you buy it once, it's good for the life of the computer. So that's done, it's taken care of. It automatically updates itself. It will bring a little pop-up in the corner when it wants to upgrade itself. You have to install the upgrade, but that's the only thing that you have to manually do. Everything else is automated. There's a free version of Malwarebytes. The free version will only help you to clean up infections you already have. It will do nothing to prevent them, and you have to update it manually. The paid version updates itself frequently throughout the day, and it sits down in the system tray, which is kind of this funky blue. It's supposed to look like an M, right? And that's going to help protect you against threats that Microsoft Security Essentials doesn't catch. And those two together work really well together. They don't fight with each other, they get along. Now, there's another thing I add. It's also free, it's called Web of Trust. And it's available at MyWOT, that's short for Web of Trust, myweboftrust.com. This is a browser add-on. And it puts this little green, I don't know if you can see, way up in the top right corner is a little green circle there. And when you download and install this in your browser, it's completely for free. When you do a Google search for something, so let's go to Google, and I'll show you a common one once I learn how to spell. I tell people I'm a really fast typer. I can type 120 typos a minute. All right, so let's do a search for Dell support. Like, I know a lot of people with Dells, and they need to call Dell. And there's so many fake Dell support sites. But you see on the search results, see all the little green circles? Those are telling me those websites have been rated by the community, not by an individual, not a single person or a corporation, as being safe. All right, so if we scroll down here, oh, see this red one? Let's say I'm not paying attention to these green and red circles, and I just click on a red one. Watch what the computer does. Well, there it is. I got a warning from Web of Trust, warning me that the site has been rated as potentially harmful, and asked me if I want to rate the site myself, because maybe the ratings are wrong, or if I want to go to the site anyway. And by the way, if you do that, don't call me. Or go back. That's the button I would expect you to hit, okay? So this is all going to assist you. It's all going to help you. And one of the things I like about this is, one of the questions I often get is, how did I get this virus if I have XYZ antivirus installed? Well, as I already said, the antivirus doesn't protect you any more than the safe car will protect you from getting into that car accident. And they say, what did I do to get it? I have no idea what you did to get it. I mean, I would have to be looking over your shoulder to see what happened. So if you have Malwarebytes running, the paid version of it, combined with Web of Trust, the minute you click on it, it should pop up if it's a threat. So you know what you just did is a threat. And you can learn that way. Since you get an immediate response from your click, don't click that anymore. And through that, improve our knowledge and understanding of what's safe to click on and what's not safe to click on. Yes?
Would either of those help on emails?
Will either of these help on email? Yes, if you tried to open an attachment that's a virus, one would hope that Malwarebytes or Microsoft Security Essentials would kick in. But maybe they won't. There's over 75,000 new viruses released each and every day out onto the internet. In fact, that's an old statistic. It's probably higher than that. So they're just playing a game of catch up constantly. So the best advice is, if you're not expecting an attachment, don't open it. Especially if it's suspicious. You know, curiosity killed the cat. And this cat right here is on live 12, let me tell you. Yes?
I got an email yesterday from American Express.
Yeah.
It said that I needed to create a security code or something like that. And when I hovered over the email address, or not the email, but
The link?
website address, which was AmericanExpress.com or something to that effect, it gave me something totally different.
Yeah.
And I says, okay, I'm gonna try this. I clicked on it, and OpenDNS caught it.
Yeah, OpenDNS is another good option too.
I reviewed last time.
Yeah, and I still like OpenDNS, but I like Web of Trust better.
Yeah.
But yes, sir.
Can you get that on a Mac also, these?
You can use OpenDNS on a Mac.
But how about the one you just had?
Microsoft Security Essentials isn't going to work on the Mac. Web of Trust,
Web of Trust.
I don't know. That's a good question. It's a browser add-on. If it's available for Safari, then it should be. But the Mac isn't really targeted for viruses.
Yeah, I know that's a big comment.
Support frequently asked questions. Firefox, Google Chrome, Opera.
Safari.
So there's Safari right there. My My guess is that it would work on the Mac, but I'm not exactly sure. It couldn't hurt you to try. I mean, it'll work or it won't work. Yes?
Do you have any suggestions then for Mac?
For Mac?
Yeah.
Well, you really don't need anything for Mac. The virus, I mean, the same rules apply and the same... Look, if I send you an email that claims to be from American Express and you click on the link and it takes you there, it doesn't matter if you're on a PC or Mac or Linux, you're going to get your identity stolen because that's social engineering and you just fell for it. When it comes to software, dangerous software like viruses, Mac's just not targeted because this maximum number of people you can affect is a very small percentage compared to the number of PC users. So if you were developing a product, you'd want to market that product to your biggest sales potential possible. So if everybody all switched over to Mac because, hey, nobody writes viruses for Mac, then the opposite would be true. Then everybody would be writing viruses for Mac, and we'd all be saying, you better go to Windows. Windows is... And there gets to be this false sense of security that it's more secure because people don't write viruses for it. But it's a piece of software just like any other. And if anybody wants to spend the time, they'll find an exploit or a hack. And there have been a couple of Mac viruses that have been out, but nothing that's really caused the damage that Windows viruses do. But then, there aren't as many Macs, so is it even possible? So I don't worry too much about security side on Macs. But that said, I'm also not a Mac person. I don't own anything from Apple. I don't use one. And we're just going to call it ignorance is bliss on this one. But my understanding of it, being in the IT field and talking to people who do work on them, is that's not really a major concern, having antivirus. There's people that put antivirus on their phones. That may be a bit premature today to do that. But I would say, that the best advice would be to take it from somebody who's a Mac expert, not me. But that's my opinion on it. Yes?
We have Norton supplied to us by our cable company.
Right.
Do we still need these other malware protection and?
You have Norton AntiVirus, which is provided by your internet service provider.
Right.
So do you just want to put your security and your identity in somebody else's hands and go, here, take care of that for me. I can't be bothered.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question.
Well, yeah, I understand. I'm saying in my opinion, my advice is you take control of your computer. That you understand what the antivirus products are that you have, that you understand that none of those products protect you 100%, and that you're using a product that you're happy with. If you've got whatever you've got and you're happy with it, I'd say there's no need to change it. What I don't like about those products are the free versions still try and sell you stuff, which I find to be annoying. Norton is a pig of a product. It's just resource intensive. It gets into your registry, it gets into folders when you uninstall it. The best product Symantec makes is a product called the Norton Removal Tool. It works really, really well. How bad is your product that when you hit the uninstall button, it's not enough and you have to go download something else to clean up everything else? So that's what I don't like about Norton, besides the fact that Symantec and McAfee both have gotten to be so big that they just seem out of touch with the customers. Now, this may not hold true in a corporate environment where you've got 1,000 PCs that you want to monitor through a server and you don't want to do each one separately. That's a different game. But for a residential home user, my advice is don't fix it if it ain't broke. If you're not happy with it and you want to try something else, you would remove it first. You only want one antivirus. So you would remove Norton first, download and remove the Norton removal tool, reboot the computer. You can go to microsoft.com/security essentials, and you can download it there. You can also get it from Windows Update, and that will replace the Norton. But again, Microsoft Security Essentials by itself is not enough. You need to combine that with Malwarebytes or Super Anti-Spyware. Either of those, they're both very good. And then the Web of Trust. Now you can add those other two programs, the Malwarebytes, the Web of Trust, in conjunction with whatever antivirus you have now. Yes,
Are you open for other questions?
absolutely.
Recent problem that I've run into, and I see it frequently on Googling it, Windows 7, Internet Explorer 11, Office Outlook 2003. It does not save additional text. It will send messages without all the text quite often. It's missing the text. So it started to happen in the last month or so, and it's quite a lot of complaints when you search for it. Have you got any ideas?
The question, for those who couldn't hear it, was an issue with Outlook 2003's got running on Windows 7, that it's not sending everything that you type.
Yeah, you can type it, and even if you click on save, it won't save it.
I've never heard of that before, but I will tell you that not only does support end for Windows XP, but support ends for Office 2003 as well, and nobody's really talking about that. And on a situation like that, I would use that as an excuse to replace it, but it's a very expensive program. So at the very least I would do is I would uninstall it and then reinstall it and go back to Windows Update and get all those updates and do it before April 8th. See if that fixes it. I've never heard of that before. I run Outlook 2003 myself, and I've never experienced that. And I've got an inbox that's got over 15,000 messages in it, and more than 2,000 messages come in my inbox every day.
Well, I was able
So-
to change the autosave to 99 minutes, and it seems as though that's taken care of.
Well, the autosave is a Word feature, not an Outlook feature.
Well, I'm not using Outlook. I'm not using Word.
Well, you're using Word as your email editor.
Well, it's turned off.
When you start to reply to an email, it's opening a word processor.
Oh, word processor,
So it's going to use Word if you've got Office.
but not Microsoft Word.
If you've installed it, that's what it uses. Yeah. The only way it won't use that, as far as I know, you'd have to uninstall Word, or you'd have to somehow reconfigure. That may be part of the problem.
Well, it's worked for 10 years, and it's all of a sudden in the last month,
Yeah.
which is kind of annoying.
These kind of problems are going to continue to get worse as you continue to use the product as support ends, and there will be no answers for it, just so you know. This is just the first of what's coming.
Another question, if I can.
Mhm.
Just an annoyance. Have you found a way to maximize a website when it opens for those websites that don't have a maximize property? So the Windows 7 will remember to maximize websites, so you don't have to go in and maximize every one of them?
When you start your browser, if it doesn't open in a full screen and you want it to, Microsoft has changed that on each version, it seems, of Windows and even on varying versions of Internet Explorer. They've changed how you do that. So I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to Google it. There's a registry setting, or there used to be a way you would hold down the left shift key.
Control key.
Yeah.
There's 101 solutions, but none of them seem to really be reliable.
Yeah, that's a great place to go if you have a very specific problem like that, is a website where you can get free technical support. It's called techguy.org, and it's techguy.org. And these are all volunteers, and they have different forums that you can, if it's a Windows 7 question or an XP question or an Office question, that you can go into these forums and post your question, and usually within a few hours you'll start getting responses. Now the quality of the responses will vary because there is no quality control. Anybody can answer. So you have to use your own best judgment as to which answer sounds like it's going to help you and which one, somebody says, well, you need to go to your C drive and type format. There are jerks out there that'll do that, but those messages will eventually get flagged and removed by moderators. So you can't just take what anybody says as, and myself included, feel free to verify anything that I'm telling you here today with a Google search. One of the things that kills me is I'll have somebody, like on my YouTube videos, I'll install a solid state hard drive, and they'll say, well, what's the difference between a solid state hard drive and a regular hard drive? And I'd say, well, why are you asking me this? All you had to do, this is what I don't understand, and you guys should be on the page with me here. See, when I was growing up, so I grew up in the 70s, if you wanted to be a musician, if you wanted to be an author, if you wanted to make a movie, You needed somebody else's approval. And if you lived on the wrong side of the country, too bad for you. With the internet, we have the largest collection of human knowledge ever contained in one place, available at our fingertips. And all we have to do is this. And it's all right there. And if you want to write a book, you can self-publish it and sell it on Amazon. You don't need an editor. You don't need an illustrator. You don't need a publisher. You don't need to pay for the books ahead of time. It'll print them on demand as people order them. And the only person you got to worry about is the people who are buying them. Keep them happy, you can be a successful author. Musician, post your music. Make videos, YouTube. Nobody stops you. It's all there. And as such, there's a lot of information out there. You want to know how to change that water pump on that 86 Jetta? Somebody's got a video or a discussion group with photos showing the entire process. You don't need to go buy the Chilton or Haynes manuals anymore. And I learn better that way personally. I learn better from watching somebody than reading it in a book. I'll never forget when I was working on my, I had an old car. I had a 1970 AMC Hornet. I say that with pride because that thing was a pile of crap. And I had to learn how to work on it if I wanted to get to work and not have to take the bus. So I'm an electronics guy, not a mechanical guy, but I became a mechanical guy because I had to. It was the best thing that ever happened because that car, everything broke on it. And I remember I got the manual for it, and I don't know what I was fixing. I was fixing something, and it said, I'll never forget it. It said, remove the left nut torque converter bolt from the bell housing. I'm a very literal person. When you say left, do you mean the driver's side or the passenger side? Because if I'm in front of the car under the hood, if I'm behind the car, but what if I'm looking at the car sideways? Then it's the front or is it the back? I don't even know. So let me, wait, okay, let's just move on. The torque converter bolt. What does that even look like? There's no pictures, but it's part of the bell housing. I think that big thing that's round is the bell housing, but I don't know. You know what I'll do? I will read the installation instructions and do them backwards. Maybe that'll be clearer. So I flip the page, and I swear to God, it said, installation is opposite of removal. Now, I paid for that book. The YouTube videos and the information on Google is free. So this person says, what's the difference between a solid-state hard drive and they're typing this out in an email, and all they had to do was type it out into Google. So what I did is there's a website called Let Me Google That For You, LMGTFY, right? Let me Google that for you. And I copy and paste his question. What is the difference between a solid-state hard drive and a hard disk drive? Then I hit the Google search, and it creates this link. And I say, give me a short link. So it gives me this little tiny link right here. And I send this link to the person in response to their email. And when they click on this link, this is what they see. If it's going to do it. Let's copy it. Let's open a new browser window, and let's paste it. Here's what happens when they click on this link. Watch the screen. It painfully types out everything that they wrote, or whatever I tell it to. It shows the mouse moving, clicking, and it says, was that so hard? And there's the search results. Now, I swear to you, I did this for somebody, and they said, how'd you do that? Are you kidding me? You want to know how I just did that? Google it. Did you not learn anything from the first part? So there's a lot of good information on Google. There's a lot of bad information on Google. So you still have to use some common sense in what answers look to be right, and you should see a consensus of information. So my dog, I have a very large German Shepherd, very large, and he was just bugging me. He wouldn't leave me alone, and I thought something's wrong with him. This is weird. And he would lay down, he'd get back up, and he was he just couldn't settle. I thought something's going on. You know, it's probably 1 o'clock in the morning, obviously, because a dog wouldn't get sick during normal business hours. And everybody always asks me about bloat. Do you have your dog's stomach stapled? Because apparently their stomachs can twist. If a deep-chested dog, I never heard of it, I don't know. So I thought, I wonder if this could be bloat. So I type in what is bloat in Google and start finding out all about it. And it said that his stomach will get tight like a basketball, start looking pregnant. And you can thunk it with your finger and it just it gets hard. And I've owned dogs all my life, or they've owned me, and I've never seen a dog in this kind of pain before, ever. So I went to a couple of websites. There were a couple of veterinarians that have blogs, or claimed to be, and there was a consensus about what the solution to this is, and what this dog's going to die in a couple hours if you don't do anything. So I take him to the 24-hour emergency animal clinic. The vet comes out. They take him back. He comes back, and he goes, "Your dog's got bloat. It's $5,000 for surgery to untwist his stomach." I said, "Look, I already know how this is going to sound. You're the vet, you're the educated one, but I just got done doing some research on Google, and they say you should be able to get a tube down his throat, and when you get that tube down his throat, it'll get the air out of his stomach, and it will untwist in the process." He goes, "How am I supposed to get a tube down his throat if his stomach's twist?" I said, "Look, I don't have $5,000, so we either need to try this or you need to put him down, because he's in way too much pain. I've never seen pain like that from a dog." He said, "All right," so he's kind of skeptical. He's like, "Fine," and he goes back, and he comes back and he says, "Okay, the tube worked, we got the air out, but his stomach is still twisted up, and we'd like to keep him here for observation." That's like $200 an hour for observation. I said, "You know what, I'll take him home, and if he starts to bloat back up, I will bring him back." So the next morning, he's still fine. I take him to a local vet who's a surgeon, and she does this. They basically tack the stomach to the inside of the abdomen so that it won't twist around like that. Once it happens once, it's just like if you pull your shoulder out of its socket, it'll happen again even easier next time. So she x-rays him, and I told her, the vet said it's still twisted. She goes, "It's not twisted. It's fine. But it will twist again even easier next time." So we got it done. But the internet saved the dog's life, basically, because I probably would have waited to see, is that something that's going to go away on its own? And he'd have been dead by morning. Some people are worried about banking and finances online. And I will tell you that if I had not checked my bank account online, I wouldn't have realized until my bank account was empty that somebody in Miami was withdrawing $500 out of an ATM every day for 3 days when I had money in there to use as a down payment on a house. And when I called, it was a Sunday when I discovered it, and I called the bank. I called the number on the back of the credit card, and they said, "Oh, thank you for pointing that out to us. It must have just got by us somehow." I'm like, "Is 500 the daily limit on the ATM?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I've never pulled the daily limit out in all the years I've been with the bank, 10 years. That's not suspicious? And don't you see charges going on in Phoenix at the same time you see an ATM withdrawal in Miami? Isn't that suspicious?" So a lot of people talk about the threat of worrying about getting their identity taken or their bank accounts robbed from just logging in online, when the exact opposite happened to me. By logging in online, I realized it was happening and put a stop to it. I still don't recommend you use any public Wi-Fi points for anything involving any passwords or any financial transactions. You should have your own internet connection. I don't care if you're paying for it. If you're paying for it at a hotel, it's still a shared connection and inherently is dangerous because it's not yours. You have no control over it. You don't know if it's an evil twin. You don't know anybody who's sniffing or eavesdropping that connection. You might click on a link that says Starbucks at Starbucks, and you don't even know Starbucks doesn't have one called Starbucks. It's some other guy sitting there creating it. So, if you're just browsing the web, stuff like that, no harm. But if you want to do anything financial, I recommend you have your own personal internet connection, whether that's from Cox Cable or CenturyLink or even a cell phone. A cell phone connection, like an air card, that's yours, belongs to you. So that's secure. Yes?
What do you think of these sites that save your passwords for you so you don't have to type them in? Are those broken?
There's some great services that save your passwords for you, and you can see on my browser, I've got RoboForm, which is that little green thing with 2 dots up in the top right corner next to the round circle, the green circle. I have a lot of websites that I go to and a lot of usernames and a lot of passwords. So when I go to RoboForm, if I want to log into eBay, for example, I can look through my long list of passwords for websites, right? Whoa. Yeah. This is why I have to have this.
Everyone of which has an
Right, so I just put one password in for RoboForm, and RoboForm will then take me to eBay, then it will enter my name, it will enter my password, and it will hit the sign-in button for me. We're logged in. That's really convenient, but if I don't have a really good, secure RoboForm password, then whoever cracks that RoboForm password theoretically has access to everything. Yes?
AOL is not supporting RoboForm any longer. I spent 80 days on the phone with Dell, and they finally told me about it.
AOL is really not needed today. You can go to AOL.com. You don't need to use AOL software anymore. Nobody's using dial. Anybody here using dial-up? There's really no reason to put yourself into that restricted AOL environment because AOL writes that to their own specs that they don't really let out to anybody. It's not open source. You don't know what's going on in there. And if you have a problem, you got to talk to them. It's not like someone like me can fix it. So I don't see any particular reason to continue using it.
RoboForm now is supported on Google Chrome, and it will work.
It always has, as far as I know.
Yeah, you gotta configure it for that.
Oh, I've never had any problem. I've never configured it for that. I've just
It asks you when you try it now.
when you go to install it, it'll detect what browsers you have, and there'll be little check boxes.
But I've had it for 5 years. That's the problem.
Well, but RoboForm's updated about every 6 weeks. So about every 6 weeks, you should be getting a new version, and every time you get a new version, it has to reinstall. Should go through that process. Now, RoboForm's about $20 a year.
Yeah.
There's a free one called LastPass. That's also pretty good. Actually, they both have a limited free version. RoboForm, I think you can have up to 12 passwords for free, and LastPass, there's so many. LastPass, I think, is $2 a month. They were free for a really long time. It works pretty much the same way. Both good products, both are secure, both can be trusted. Norton's got one. Norton's is fine. Their password vault, yeah, that's fine. One of the great things about these programs is they let you create passwords. It'll generate a password for you. That'll be just as many characters as you want. Say anything over 12 is good for a password, 12 to 14 characters. And just tell it to generate random gibberish 12 to 14 characters for you. Then you set that as your password for the bank, whatever. And it'll enter it for you from that point forward. You don't have to remember it. You just have to remember your RoboForm password. All your other passwords can be really secure and unhackable that way. That still won't stop Target from giving your information out, but at least you did your part. Right? You can only do your part. Other questions? Yes?
I live not too far from here, and every morning between about 4:30 to about 6:30, my Wi-Fi disappears.
Is it your Wi-Fi?
I'm renting the home, but it's
So if there's a certain time of the day where the Wi-Fi is vanishing and it belongs to you, it's in your house, it's not a public,
in my house.
okay, the router may be configured to turn off during certain hours. They have restriction options to block certain websites or to not work during certain days or certain hours of certain days. And it sounds like the router is configured for that. Or maintenance has been happening at that time, which has nothing to do with you and it's happening outside of your home. Or the router may be failing and it's just coincidental that it's happening at that time. Or you've got a cable that may be bad. Or, I mean, there's a lot of different options here. But the first thing I would check would be the settings of the router. But every router's settings are a little different, so I can't really tell you how to do that. You could certainly call your internet service provider. And if the router was provided by them, they should be able to help you with that. If the router was purchased somewhere else, they'll say it's not their problem. That is an advantage to buying the router provided by the internet service provider, is if you get your own modem or your own router to save a few bucks, they're going to say that's why it doesn't work anytime you have a problem. So when you buy it from them, they're forced, they don't have a finger to point, then they have to help you. Well, we got a bunch. Let's start here.
I have Windows 8.1, a kind of life-changing experience here, but it won't work. Adobe 8, I can't get it downloaded and run on it.
Windows 8.1 is what is running on this computer here, is Windows 8.1. Adobe Reader is version 11. You're trying to run a version that's 4 versions behind. So there's 11, 10, 9, and 8. So you're 4 versions behind. I don't think it will work in Windows 8. I think it's just, it was never, when it was written by the developers, it was never designed to run in Windows 8. It didn't exist. If there's a way to do it, you would have to call and talk to the folks at Adobe or go to their support and say, you know, how do I get this installed on Windows 8? My gut reaction is it's probably just too old to run in Windows 8.
So Windows or Adobe 11 is a paid?
Adobe, well, there's 2 versions. There's Adobe Acrobat. Adobe Acrobat gives you the option to create portable document format PDF files. But what good is the PDF file if you can't read it? So they give the reader away for free. So Adobe Reader is free. And if all you want is the reader, you don't have to go with Adobe. There's any number of PDF readers out there. But the latest version of Adobe Reader is, I think, 11.0.6, which means even version 11's been updated 6 times now since it came out. And it's another popular way people gain access to your computer is through infecting a PDF file that exploits an advantage of Adobe Reader, which is another reason why you don't want 8 on there. If you saw the number of updates, if you installed 8 on Windows XP today, Adobe doesn't give you the option to install the latest version. You have to download the 22 updates individually and install each one. Reboot, install 22 times. Then you've got the latest 8. It'll take at least 3 hours. So, but if you're not using the professional Adobe Acrobat and all you want is the reader, you can just download Adobe Reader for free. Just go to Google, type Adobe Reader.
But it don't work, that's the question.
8 won't work, you'll get 11.
I'll get 11.
Yeah, you won't get 8. Yeah, take 8 off. Well, he can't get it on. Just, yeah. So if it's not on, you don't have to remove it. If it is on and it's not working, go to Programs and Features, uninstall it, get the latest version, install it, problems are over. You know, one of the things people say, well, how did I get this toolbar, or how did I get this program? And they're downloading Java or Adobe or Flash, and they're putting these little add-ons on. And what they're doing is they're clicking next, 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 and they're not reading the screen. And so that's saying, can I, by leaving this box checked, you're letting us change your search provider to ask.com and to change your homepage to ask.com. Or we're going to give you the McAfee security scanner. And if you don't uncheck that box, you're giving them permission to put that junk on your computer because you didn't read it. But what if you don't want to read it? I'm too busy to read. No. There's a program, it's completely free, and it's called uncheckE. And I just learned of this from a participant in my previous presentation. And it automatically unchecks those boxes. And they've got a little demo of it working here. It just runs in the background on your computer, and it shows that this is what the product looks like. You download it, install it. It's a small download. It's installed, just that easy. It's already done. So here they're installing uTorrent, which you should never use anyway, but see, see all these boxes that are checked by default? That one's checked, and this person has to uncheck them manually, or they're going to end up with all this junk on their computer, right? They've got to decline this offer. Now here's the same install with uncheckE running. You'll see the box is already unchecked. When he clicks next, all those boxes are already unchecked. So you literally can just click next, 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 next on most things. So things like Java, for example. It's a great little free application. Not going to hurt anything to have it. And it's safe. One of the things I want to emphasize to you is as a technician, I have a lot of opinions, but I don't want you to take my opinion as fact. I want you to have your own experience and develop your own opinion. It'd be no different than I was a chef, and you asked me if this plate of chicken wings I brought out was spicy, and I said, oh no, it's not spicy, and then you bit into it and thought it was the spiciest thing you've ever eaten. Did it make me wrong? I mean, after all, I'm the professional chef. I shouldn't be wrong, right? But ultimately, you really didn't know until you bit into it. So, my goal here is to make you aware that there is free software out there that will not harm your computer, that you can then decide if you like it or don't like it, whether it's RoboForm or LastPass or uncheckE. If you don't like these programs for any reason, maybe you just don't like the color of the borders. It doesn't matter why you don't like it. But you're only going to come to that conclusion from trying it. And so many people are afraid of trying new things with the computer because they don't want to break it. And then it's going to cost money to fix. So you'll know through my presentation, anything I talk about is safe for you to try. And it doesn't matter how enthusiastic I am about it. All that matters is whether or not you like it. And the only way you're going to figure that out is by trying it. So I want to emphasize that, because everybody's got opinions, and ultimately only your opinion matters. Yes?
Talk about the speed requirements for 8.
Speed requirements for 8? Speed of a computer?
Process speeds, bus speeds, so forth.
Well, Microsoft, when they tell you that there are minimum requirements for their software to run, I have a problem with that. Because when I use the word run, and probably when we've used the word run, we meant to move quickly, right?
That's not the kind of run I'm talking about.
But that's what Microsoft will say. They'll say for Windows 8 to run, you need at least this, at least that. For Microsoft Windows 8 to crawl, you need at least this, this, and this. Not for it to run. My advice, if I was building a computer, would be a modern Intel or AMD processor that's available today. Preferably 8 gigs of RAM. 4 will do. Anything less than 4 I think is insane. It's too slow. A solid-state hard drive will make all the difference in the world if speed is important. If speed is not important, you can use a regular mechanical hard drive. A solid-state hard drive is no different, except, the computer still sees it as a hard drive, treats it as a hard drive. The installation is the same, but there's no moving parts in it. It's just like a large flash drive with no moving parts. Like the memory card in your camera, or the flash drive that you might copy data to, it's just a larger capacity. It's about 5 times faster than an ordinary hard drive on average. It's dead silent, uses less power. You never ever defragment a solid-state hard drive. A solid-state hard drive writes to something called cells, and the cells will eventually die after they've been written to a certain number of times. Now in a test, they estimated about 74 years was how long it would take to kill all the cells if you wrote 30 gigs of data a day for 74 years, or 16 gigs, something like some ridiculous amount of data. The drive will probably die for other reasons. And when a solid-state drive fails, there's pretty much no recovery. So backups are very important. Backups are always important, but with a solid-state drive, even more so. Now, I've yet to see a failed solid-state drive. I've never seen it. Been using them for about 3 or 4 years right now, and I haven't. That's not wood. I have not seen one fail yet. Everything fails. They say diamonds are forever, but I don't know. That's about the closest thing I can think of that isn't going to fail. But anything that's got a moving part, so a hard drive has a spinning platter and a moving head, that generates friction, which generates heat, which causes wear, which ultimately results in failure. So every hard drive ever made will fail. As far as the rest of the system, any modern processor, obviously you've got to have a modern motherboard. It's going to have DDR3 memory. That's all you're going to be able to put in it. A SATA-based hard drive. Whether or not you need a video card or you can use what's built into the motherboard depends on your needs. If you're 19 years old and you're playing games all day, the built-in video card's not going to cut it. If you're doing work, if you're in a business, or it's just games like solitaire, stuff like that, the built-in video card is all you need. That's really all there is to it. If you have an older computer and you want to know, will this older computer run Windows 8? I would say if that computer is older than Windows 7, then probably not a good idea. So Windows 7 is about 5 years old. So if you've got a computer that's 5 years old or older, I wouldn't even think about it. If you're not even sure if it's like 4 years maybe, I wouldn't do it. Be much better off, just get a whole new computer, because the process of installing and getting the drivers is just, unless you're a tech, it can be nightmarish to just get everything to work, get your sound to work, get your video to work, get your networking to work, get your printers installed, and all the other fun stuff that comes along with a new operating system. You'll see my Windows, speaking of Windows 8, you'll see my Windows 8 looks a lot like Windows 7. It doesn't look like Windows 8. And that's what makes it tolerable to use. Let me show you something. You see this button right down here in the left corner? We call this a start button. Microsoft got rid of it in Windows 8. And then they brought it back, but what it does, the default in Windows 8.1, when you click the start button, is it takes you back to the Metro interface. So to me, the start button should just look like a great big middle finger from Microsoft. Oh, you want your start button back, do you? Here you go. So this program I'm using is called Classic Shell, and it's completely free. And it's available at classicshell.net, which is open source, classicshell.net. It's open source, it's a community project, so you can see everything that's going on if you're inclined to look at code. Nothing's hidden. It's a small download. There are a lot of other start button alternatives for Windows 8, from Start 8 to, I don't know, there's about 50 others. Some of them are $5, some of them are $30. This one's free. You can choose what kind of start menu you want, if you want an XP style or a Windows 7 style start menu. You can have it boot directly to the desktop instead of going to this stupid tile. I hate this Metro interface, or they call it the modern interface. This is the other thing I don't like. Microsoft marketing just goes nuts with their terms. This, I don't want to see this. This does me no good at all. Some people go, yeah, well, they're trying to make the experience you have on your phone and your tablet match the experience on your PC. Okay, well, a phone and a tablet are a limited device. Phones and tablets are used to look at stuff that were created with PCs. PCs aren't going anywhere. Don't believe any of this nonsense that the PC's going away because everybody's getting tablets and phones. If everybody had tablets and phones, there'd be nothing to look at with them, because nobody is designing the next high-rise building in Phoenix on a tablet. Ford has not designed the new Mustang on a smartphone or a tablet. SRP is not issuing their bills through a smartphone or a tablet. You can pay your bill through a smartphone or a tablet. I can't edit my videos on YouTube on a tablet, but you can watch them on a tablet. So a tablet and a phone is a consuming device. It's not a creation device. So as long as there's going to be people wanting to consume stuff, there's going to need to be people to create stuff. The PC is used for creating. It's that simple. So it may be great for the residential customer to have that as a lower maintenance thing, to just do the little things they want to do on the internet. That's fine. But don't think it's replacing the PC. That's not happening. So my phone, this shocks a lot of people, but I'll show you my phone. I don't own a smart, yeah, I got a brother from another mother right there. This, this is a device I use for making and receiving phone calls. There's another one. I don't want it to take pictures. I've got a digital camera for that. I don't want it as a GPS. I have a GPS for that. I have a 56-inch TV at home. Do you think that I want to watch the Super Bowl? Actually, the Super Bowl, I probably would have wanted to watch it on this small screen. But under ordinary circumstances, I don't want to watch a movie that they spend all this money on special effects and post-production and all the money they spend on Hollywood movies today on a screen that's this big. You know, you can't even see 1080p on a screen smaller than 32 inches. So if you're going to Best Buy and you see a 27-inch 1080p TV,
Ain't gonna happen.
we have analog eyes. We don't have digital eyes. So there's a lot of marketing at work here. Or you'll see there's another one they do with TVs, contrast ratio, 1,000,000 to 1. Well, our contrast ratio is 10,000,000 to 1. No. Well, ours is 100,000,000 to 1. Well, how did they get to that number? They determine what the blackest black is when the TV is on without a picture, and then what the brightest white is, and how many shades of gray, basically, from the darkest dark to the whitest white. So how do they conduct that test? Well, we go about 300 feet underground to the darkest cave we can find. You know, they just make it up. So you know which TV you buy? The one that looks good to you. It doesn't really matter what the TV says. Does that one look good to you? That's the one you should buy. So getting back to this, the idea that they wanted to make the interface between the phone and the computer and the tablet all seamless, there are sacrifices that are made because you have this small device that you don't have to make with a PC. And businesses don't want this. And I can tell you because I work for many businesses as a computer tech, as a consultant, and I do not have a single business that I am aware of that runs Windows 8. And it's primarily because of this interface right here. But once we can get rid of this interface, once we can get our start menu back and we can go back to a traditional desktop, and here's what Microsoft will tell you, by the way. One of the things I don't like is I have, like, let's say 200 programs installed in my computer. How am I going to find them in this mess? Well, all you have to do is start typing. All right, so if I want to go to the control panel, I just start typing control panel? Is that? Yes, that's how that works. Wow, I just went back to 1986. The whole point of the graphical user interface, or GUI, was that anybody could point at the picture and click it, and that's what opened the computers up to the world. You didn't have to be a scientist or a mathematician or a physicist. You just had to look at the picture and click it. And now they've gone and taken 20 steps backwards and said, all you gotta do is type it. You want Microsoft Word? All you gotta do is just type. Oh, you don't see the picture? Just type W-O-R-D. Oh, there's Microsoft Word. How is that progress? Can anybody explain that to me? So as you can probably tell, Windows 8, not a fan. Maybe I've just been brainwashed by businesses. This might be fine for a home user, but where you're paying an employee to be productive, we don't need this. We need to get work done. And it doesn't seem like Microsoft really thought of businesses when they designed this. Yes?
Well, I have Windows 8, and will this classic shell.net, can I put it on net on 8, or do I have to go to 8.1 first?
It'll work in either 8 or 8.1, but it'd be advisable that you do go to 8.1 for security reasons.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been told by some text not to go to 8.1, so
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Okay, here's the problem. Being a tech is a self-proclaimed position. Say I'm a tech.
Okay.
Say it. I'm a tech.
I'm a tech, yeah.
That's it. You are one.
Yeah, very good one, I'll tell you that.
How do you know the very good ones from the ones who aren't very good? I mean, who are good versus very. How do you know?
Is it easy to download 8.1?
It's time consuming, but it is easy. You want
I'm
to.
getting messages frequently, I can do it free.
Well, here's again, I think where Microsoft dropped the ball. They have ingrained in us to go to Windows Update to check for updates, to make sure our computers have the latest updates. But you will not get Windows 8.1 through Windows Update. You have to go to the App Store, which is in that tiled interface. And then it will offer you the Windows 8.1 update, which really isn't an update. It's a whole new installation of the operating system.
Well, it keeps just popping up every now.
Well, if you're getting that's good, because I had to go dig for it and find it.
Okay.
And then once you've got it, then you've got to go back to Windows Update to get the updates to the Windows 8.1 update. Anyway, so after you spend 4 hours installing it, you want to go to Windows Update. That's how long it took to get Windows 8.1 installed on that laptop. It took 4 hours.
Tell you what, I'll take my Windows 8 and trade him for his Windows 7.
No, he's got 8.
Yeah, hey,
He's got 8, and he's talking about going to 8.1. Anything that's running 8 can run 7. I mean, if you're so fed up with it and you want to buy another license, I mean, it doesn't make sense to buy 2 licenses for 1 car. But if you wanted to buy the license for Windows 7, if your computer is running 8 or 8.1 today, I guarantee you it can run 7.
get rid of it.
Well, you don't have to get rid of it. I mean, with Classic Shell, it's actually pretty good. And in my experience, the same computer with Windows 8 seems to be more responsive, faster than the same computer with Windows 7. I still prefer 7, but it's not all bad, I guess is what I'm saying.
I've had some questions in our tech time of should I upgrade from 8 to 8.1? And I guess I hear for security reasons, a lot of people ask how hard is it? And I agree with you, it's about 4 hours. I've done it twice, 3
Okay.
times on my own, and some people are hesitant to do it. I know how to do it. I've been to the store and I've done it 3 times
So you've done the Windows 8 to 8.1 upgrade 3 times,
Yeah.
about 4 hours each time, in that ballpark?
Yeah, I've done it on 2 different machines. I did it twice on one because I wanted to have the experience.
You're a glutton, aren't you? Wow. Good for you.
Well, what I found is that the Windows, or the Microsoft transfer from 7 to 8 is not very clean.
It never has been. When it was XP to Vista, it wasn't clean.
I ended up bringing a bunch of settings from 7 over into 8, and goodbye, start over again.
Yeah.
So
It's never a good idea to ever put an operating system on top of another operating system. It's always best to install it clean. Now, an update like from 8.1, from 8, that's okay. But to go from 7 to 8,
this was, I wasn't transferring the operating system, but, Windows transfer, I had documents on a 7 going to an 8 machine.
yeah.
And I didn't click the right boxes between 7 and 8, so I ended up, wanted to put some of the 7 settings, desktop, et cetera, on the 8 machine, which
Yeah.
messed it up.
Well, again, always best to do a clean install, just to back that stuff up onto an external drive, do your clean install, and then bring it back yourself. Yes?
For those considering a new computer, I bought 3 of them in the last couple of months with Windows 7, and just because of the reasons you brought up. They're still out there, but you won't get them at Best Buy.
There is a, if I can get back to my desktop, Windows 7 back by popular demand, HP. There it is. This is January 20th. This article was written January 20th, just a couple weeks ago. Backed by popular demand. Customize a new HP PC with Windows 7.
One of them that I bought was a HP laptop that came with Windows 7 and a disk for Windows 8.
Yeah. Yeah, well, usually you don't get the discs, but it's good that you've got it. And it is a trend that the manufacturers are finding that the customers want 7. Give the customers what they want. It's starting to happen. I think you should upgrade to 8.1 if you've got 8. I think this whole thing of people saying you shouldn't do it because it causes problems would be like somebody advising you not to get a flu shot because they got the flu shot and then they got really, really sick. So then you don't get the flu shot and instead you get the flu and you get really, really sick. So I want to emphasize you to have your own experience. Should I buy a Ford or a Chevy or a Nissan or a Toyota or a Jag or a Mercedes or a BMW or a Suzuki or a Kia or a Hyundai or a Volkswagen, Land Rover? Depends who you ask. Dodge. You're going to run into people who say, never buy a Ford. And you'll run into somebody else that says, never buy a Chevy. Because they had a bad experience, such a bad one that they don't want to ever buy another product from that company again. But they earned the right to have that opinion. So you're kind of taking cuts if you're just going to take their opinion and use it as yours. You're really robbing yourself. But that said, the 8.1 is here to stay. Microsoft has never recalled an update and said, we take it back, don't use it. So probably the sooner you start to embrace it, the better. What I don't advise is when a new operating system comes out, let's just say it's Windows 8. I would say stay away from that new operating system for a year. Not because I'm waiting for Microsoft to fix bugs. No. What I'm waiting for are all the third-party companies to catch up and make their products compatible. Make sure my printer's going to work and my scanner's going to work. If you're going to be one of the first people, if you're going to be a pioneer with a new operating system, then you get to blaze that new trail and run into all those obstacles so that guys like me can do a Google search a year later and say, oh, that guy already had that problem and that's what he did to fix it. Thank you. And I can get on with life. Well, you struggled for 3 weeks trying to figure it out or waited for HP to update a driver that took them 3 months to do. That's the only reason I don't recommend going to a brand new operating system. It has nothing to do with the operating system itself. It has to do with all the programs and applications and drivers that the operating system needs to work. That's not provided from Microsoft. How am I on time? 5 minutes? Yes.
Google keeps requesting I go to Chrome.
Yeah.
Is that a good idea or bad idea?
Google Chrome, Firefox, Opera, Safari, and Internet Explorer all are browsers. You'll see ads on TV telling you should buy a Ford. It's a car. It'll take you from point A to point B just like all the other cars. A browser is what you use to type www something something something. It browses the internet, displays the pages on your screen. The only reason that you should have to use a different browser is that the browser you've got is not displaying a page properly, or there are browser add-ons available in Firefox and Chrome that are not available in Internet Explorer. And those add-ons may be pop-up blockers, and there's hundreds of them. And I don't like using these add-ons because to me they're like having a crutch. Best way I can explain it is my phone. I don't know anybody's phone number anymore. I used to when I was a kid. If I lose this phone, I can't call my mom or my dad. I don't even know their number. I swear I don't know their number. On the other hand, I have more numbers with me at any given time than I've ever had, okay? So, I mean, I do have a Rolodex at home, an old-fashioned Rolodex, pen and paper. Because you know what? Technology is not always better. So that's my backup, is the pen and paper. So this is a crutch. Because I've got everybody's number in here, I don't have to remember them anymore. And then in a way that helps me and in a way that hurts me. And all these browser add-ons that people use to enhance their browsing experience start to become normal everyday use. And then when they go sit at somebody else's computer, they don't know how to get around something because the browser add-on's been taking care of it for them. So, you know, that's personal preference. But if you, Internet Explorer 11 has had some compatibility issues displaying some sites. So let's say you went to Windows Update and it said, you know, you need Internet Explorer 11, you downloaded it, and now you can't go to your bank because your bank says we don't support that. That would be a good reason for you to get Chrome or Firefox. What you see here is Chrome. I like Chrome. It seems to open it quite a bit faster. But to be honest, from the naked eye, just opening up Chrome and opening up Internet Explorer 11, they look identical. It's not until they start using them that you can really start to feel a speed difference, or ultimately that's what it amounts to, a speed difference, and whether or not a page displays correctly. So should you download and install Google Chrome? That's up to you. Download it if you want to. Try it. If you don't like it, remove it. But what I want to emphasize here is if you do download anything that you don't like, remove it. Don't leave it, because it will eventually become a security issue since you're not using it and it's not getting updated. So just take it off if you don't like it. If you do like it, then use it. But that's just something you'll have to experience. It's safe. It won't harm your computer by trying it. Yes?
What's wrong with Firefox? Every time you use this, you go to a website and all of a sudden you get these dialog boxes that pop up, and every time you go to a website it has Twitter or
Facebook,
other things on, you get this stupid dialog box, and it makes it so you have to click on it to get rid of it. And it's a warning dialog box.
It's a big one.
It's a big one, yeah. You know, like yay, on the middle of the screen.
I haven't used Firefox in over a year, so I don't know what you're referring to.
Point I won't use it anymore.
I'd have to see it. I've been using Chrome for a long time,
Yeah.
and I use Internet Explorer. I probably use Internet Explorer as much as I use Chrome. Because Google owns YouTube and I do a lot of YouTube videos, YouTube just seems to play better through Chrome. Go figure. And on Windows XP, which I still have at home, I actually have a Windows 7 computer. I haven't had time to move everything over. It's been sitting for 2 months. So, you know, practice what I preach. I need to get this done. But the largest version of it, the latest version of Internet Explorer you can get on XP is version 8. And so sites like Facebook, they just don't load. So XP users really don't have a choice but to go to Google Chrome or Firefox, because Microsoft has abandoned them at Internet Explorer 8. So you can't get 9, you can't get 10, and you can't get 11. And it's not for any technical reason, it's for a marketing reason. They want you to buy a new operating system. So I think that's about my time. I do appreciate you coming out to see me today. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got my business cards on the table there. If you want to grab a card or a couple, you're certainly more than welcome to. And if you have any questions for me, I'll be around here for a little bit as I pack up. And thank you again.